Hello F11 members and welcome back to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 82, November 2018. So in part 1 I looked at watermarks. Now here in part 2 I'd like to introduce you to a new function that's hidden in the latest version of Lightroom Classic, which I think you'll be quite interested in. The ability to merge images, exposure merge images, and make a panorama all in one go is a new feature that we're going to look at here and now. So the other morning I was out shooting on a beautiful autumn morning. This scene on the screen in front of me, the first light on the countryside around Plush, right in the heart of Dorset. And you can see the scene was this wonderful row of trees capturing that first beautiful side lighting. But there's quite contrasty, some dark shadows, and of course bright detail in the sky as well. And I was struggling to expose to really capture all that information. So I opted to do exposure bracketing, as you can see. That the brightest image here, a middle picture here, and a darker one there for the sky, and pan to make the overlapping exposures to make a panorama at the same time. So what I'm going to do now is basically I've selected and flagged the pictures now, 3 exposures each for frame, and then to be merged together to make a panorama. So if I just go to edit and select flagged photos now, and what I'm going to do is now just come up to the top here, at the top bar. If I just move the recording screen, maybe I can do that. Oh no, I can't. If I come to photo and photo merge, there you can see it's got HDR panorama, a new feature. So I'm just going to click on that, and up comes the panorama merge preview, HDR panorama merge preview. And you can see here I've selected cylindrical projection, that's the kind of default. I'm asking it to auto crop the image. I can always fine tune that later, by the way, but I have unclicked auto settings because I'm the one who prefers to do that. So now I'm just waiting for the preview to be processed. It's a lot of information. I shot the picture with the Canon 5 DSR, so that's 50 megapixels per frame. So it's both exposure merging and stitching together at the same time. So obviously it's working quite hard. So I'll just pause you while that's happening. So here's my preview, and that's really looking quite appealing, isn't it? Quite impressive. It took a few minutes to do that preview, but it's just a preview. So now I need to merge the images, and so I click on merge and wait again. So it's working on that now. Progress bar top left is showing me how it's getting on with that. So while it's churning away, I'll pause you again. So Lightroom has now stitched together that panorama, and here it is. And it took a few minutes to do that again, but I think that was certainly worth doing. And now if I click on it, take a minute for it to cache the image, for it to look sharp on my screen. So I just wait. And there it is. And I'm really quite happy with that as is. But now I'm just going to carry on processing this image as I would any other. So first thing I'm going to do is just check I've got here my caption information and metadata's all there. So that's done. So I'm going to go to the develop module now, and what do I need to do before I wade in here? I'll just fine-tune black and white points as usual, optimize contrast, fine-tune the cropping. I need to bring back some of the drama in that sky there, some of that lovely towering clouds on the horizon there. So first thing I'll do is just look at my cropping. So I asked Lightroom to auto crop the image, which it's done a good job of doing. But I don't think I need all this area on the right of the frame there. I think it's a little bit excessive there. So I'm going to bring it into about there. And that looks about right. Just move down the bottom of the frame a touch here. There. Click on done. Look at the left of the frame. I can afford to move it in a touch, maybe just to about there. Okay, click on done. Now I'm going to look at my black points. Move my black point to the left until I start to clip my blacks. I want to boost my shadows. You might find it perverse that I've adjusted black points and boosting shadows, but actually that just means I've got the darkest tone is a black point, but rather than a muddy brown, but I want to boost the shadows as well, just to bring them up a touch there to around about plus 20, 24, let's say. And I'm going to just a touch more vibrance in there, a little bit, not much, teaspoonful. That looks pretty good. The sky needs some attention, of course, doesn't it? So let's see what I can do with that. So I'm going to use the grad tool here and just use the, just pull down the grad, hold down the shift key and bring in the grad here just on that top of the sky there. Pull back my highlights in this particular area of the image quite a way and pull back the exposure as well. I'm going to move that grad down a bit there. Pull in the exposure. That's really brought that sky in nicely, hasn't it? Given it much more interest. Really brought those clouds in nicely. Just a little bit more can I get away with. I don't obviously want to see a grad line, but at the same time I want to really maximize the effect of those clouds there. So I think that's about right there. And you can see the grad is affecting the top of the hillside there. But actually I'm not too worried about that. I think that's working quite well. So I click on done now. And I'm going to export this image and just fine tune it slightly in Photoshop. Okay, so I'll see you in Photoshop. So here we are with the image open in Photoshop. I just want to darken down a few areas of the picture. I could have done it in Lightroom, of course, using the adjustment brush, but I'm going to do it here in Photoshop. Many ways to skin a cat, of course, in post-production. So first thing I want to do, though, is before I make any adjustments, is make a duplicate layer. So if I go layer and duplicate layer, background copy, it means that I'm just working on a layer rather than the actual image. It's called non-destructive editing, and it's good working practice there. You can see I've got this background layer there. Okay, so first thing I do is bring in my tools here, my toolbox, move it over here, select the Lasso Tool, and I'm just going to select this area on the right of the image that I think could do with darkening down a touch. Just, I don't need to be too accurate, but that kind of area. I'm now going to feather that selection. I've got an action to do that. I'll bring that in. I'm going to feather that selection with an edge of about, I'm going to say 300 pixels, which will give it a nice soft edge there. Play that. Okay, now if I come up to image adjustments, curves here. And what it's going to do is just, I need to just stop here. Because what I did was, instead of feathering that selection, I applied a mask. I don't want to do that, I just want to feather it. So I'll go Lasso, just go back to the Lasso command in my history. There we go. And now I'm going to just come and play this feather selection here, feather 300. So easy to get confused in Photoshop. Okay, and now I'm just going to go image adjustments, curves, and then just look at the black and white points. Just in that selected area of the picture, adjust my white point. That brightens the image, which is not what I want to do, but I'm just now going to pull the curve back down there. This is having the effect of darkening the image and adjusting the contrast as well, or enhancing the contrast really. How far do I want to go? To about there, I'd say. Preview on and off. Click on OK. Take these out of the window here. Now look at the end result, and I'm really quite pleased with that. Well, I think what this shows is that this new feature, this HDR Panorama merge in Lightroom, will be very, very useful. So there you go. Please do send in your suggestions for what you'd like to see in future post-production video tutorials. I hope this month's have been of use.